Missed an episode of your favorite podcast? Choose from over a decade of content in our archives, not just the latest episode. All free at GCNlive.com.
This is your call to action. Get prepared, America. Economy, survival, energy, disasters. This is USAPrepares.com. Informative radio, educational radio. Interact now by emailing instructor@usaprepares.com or text at 434-390-7953. Class, please take your seats. Now, your instructor, Vincent Finelli.
Everyone all set? Cocked, locked. Here we go. Your dial set correctly to USA Prepares. Thank you for being in class with us today. Jason is engineering the broadcast in Minnesota. I'm Vincent Finelli. Dr. Richard Allen Miller's with us today. Welcome, Rick.
It's just outside Balfour.
Rick, I got a
Turn up your volume for me.
Hang on.
Click, please.
Okay, I've got to get the wrench. Give me just a second.
Yeah, the wrench. That's it. Eric, the hammer. Eric, the wrench.
We used to be able to use needle nose pliers. Now we have to use a pipe wrench. But I've got one that's 18 inches. I think I can get it to budge a little bit.
That's coronavirus, the way it transmits now. That's, the people and their superstitions is growing to such a point where the virus isn't the thing that's killing people. It's their imagination. And I can validate this. I am now, number one, the problem with this virus is that it was weaponized. Why did they do that? Who did that? Oh, wait, that was Bill Gates. You know what I think? I think Bill Gates and his wife need to be sent to Wuhan to see what their money can buy. And that takes care of that problem. Why would anyone want to weaponize a virus? For what purpose? Well, population control. Yeah. Why? The whole thing is wrong, and everybody's freaking out when, in fact, it's not the killer that the flu does, the common cold. The common cold, if this is the Wuhan virus, is a variation of the common cold. It is a simple variation, just tweaked enough that now, instead of your body being able to cope with it, makes it more difficult. And guess what? Our new research is going to be able to pick out the ones that are black, and we'll take them out first. That's where we're going in our weaponization of smart bullets that go around corners and are, with your name on it. I have had enough, and I think that everybody listening to me right now needs to start writing letters, email, anything to Congressman saying, this is enough. It isn't about the fear. That's how they control, and then they take our children, don't educate them, to the point where they're even more frightened. And these are the people that are going to take care of me when I'm in a wheelchair. I've had enough, and I'm starting to call it out as it is. It isn't going to kill you, this Wuhan virus. If you eat right and take care of your body right, not obesity, you take care of yourself, you won't be a problem to most anything unless, of course, they're making it a weapon. Black plague, yellow fever, malaria, you have not even begun to see where they're going to take all of this stuff. And if you don't think CNN is having a good time with it, this is bullshit. And I'm so sorry that nobody is calling it out like it is. This latest one I just got this morning about the pipes and how it moves from fecal matter from one story to another. Why would anyone want to be living in a high-rise in the first place? I realize most everybody is in urban cities now, but that's not going to play if the grid goes down. And if you think you're having problems with no power, imagine somebody getting the mumps at your age. There, I've done my little soapbox. Sorry about that, Vincent.
Okay, so you mentioned Bill Gates. And
yeah, I did mention
here's my
Bill
take on
Gates.
it.
Let's mention him more and more. Why?
Okay, I'll be glad to.
As a philanthropist, be even interested in investing in this one as a weapon. Bill, what's that about?
Okay, let's mention a little bit more about Bill Gates. So I know something a little bit about this. The reason I can say that is I used to have a company that manufactured computers in the Commonwealth of Virginia. I used to hunt in Redmond, Washington, before Bill Gates existed. I used to hunt rabbits there as a boy. You know, I've watched this whole thing happen, and the thing I don't like about Microsoft is the back doors. And once they took over Skype, that ruined it. Skype now is a problematic system that prior to being owned by Microsoft was not a problem. And I think it's time we start talking about that in terms of fortunes and where we want to place our money and why not. You know, the whole thing about Apple, you know, just got fined, that Apple and Microsoft. Apple just got fined for lowering the bandwidth and speed of your older telephone. So you have to upgrade in order to get the speed that you used to enjoy with your older systems. It wasn't that the older systems are slower. No, it's the newer systems use a different technology, and they're edging out the older technology like Mopar did with your Ford and Chevrolet. And it's now getting to the point where I've had enough of this kind of form of capitalism. It's not about, I don't know, man. I'm done with this kind of technology, and I'm going to encourage everybody, let's move to Linux and give everybody the finger. That's the longbow that was used to have that arrow be able to pierce French armor. I remember back in the 70s, I had Allstate Insurance, and I was renovating an old Victorian house, the first house that I ever bought.
You're in good hands.
Lots of work, so I was.
Yeah.
Well, let me finish that. I've got that's where the comment is going, and so I had a table saw, a radial arm saw, and my circular saws and my hammers, and I'd go there every couple of days to work on this house, mostly on the weekends. And I was ripping out the plaster and the lath and putting in a kitchen and a heating system and wiring and a lot of work on this house. And so one day between visits to work on the house, I would work on it after work in the evenings. And the window was jimmied. My saws were gone, my table saw, my radial arm saw. And so I filed a police report. Cop came out, took the pictures. I had pictures of it. I called Allstate. It was insured by Allstate, and they just gave me the runaround. And even though the Jimmy marks were there on the window, they did not want to pay the claim. And it was only a few $100s. I mean, not $1,000. I mean, just a couple $100s. And they just refused to pay the claim. And so one day I called up, and I kept calling him every week. I would call him and, hey, remember me? Yeah. I mean, I'm the guy that you won't pay the claim for. And so finally I said, I was watching TV, and this is when I had a television back in the 70s. So I was watching TV, and I saw your commercial last night, and it said, you're in good hands with Allstate. But so far, all I've gotten is the finger. And they'd never heard that before.
It's called groping your wallet.
They never heard that before.
That's where the good hands are. Yeah. Hairy in your pocket.
Yeah, so. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and how do you know a good insurance company? You know a good insurance company by the way they handle their claims. So, that was Allstate back then, and Farm Bureau has really eclipsed Allstate. Farm Bureau is the worst, in my opinion, insurance company in the universe, not just the galaxy, but the universe. But you mentioned Bill Gates, and I have a comment about that, and I know something about this, a little bit. So when I was the owner of a computer manufacturing company, we used Windows and we used other operating environments as well. But let me tell you, this is going to be stunning, class. So I'm going to just tell you about the different versions of Windows. Now, what happened was Microsoft released Windows 1.0, and nobody even knows about that, right? 1.0 in 1985. And then there was 1.02 and 1.03. That was 1986. Now, each version of Windows was defective. Defective. Let me say it a different way. Defective. And the way you would fix that is you would buy another version. So you buy the first one for $89.95 and it was price fixed. How do I know? Because everybody paid $89.95. You paid either $89.95 retail, you paid $89.95 wholesale, or you paid a little bit more if the reseller couldn't stand selling it for cost. We sold it below cost. People would say, how can you do that? And we never told them it was below cost. But so Windows 1.03 was in 1986, then there was 1.04, then 2.03, 1987. 2.10, 2.11, 3.0, that's 1990. 3.1, 3.11, that was called Windows for Workgroups, that was 1993. 3.2, 3.5, 3.51. Windows 95. Windows NT, 4.0. Windows 98. Windows 2000. Windows ME as in Millennium. Windows XP was in 2001. Then there was Windows XP Professional, 64-bit version. That was in 2005. Then Windows Vista. Then Windows 7, 2009. Windows 8. Windows 8.1.
8.1, yeah.
Yeah. Windows 10. So Windows 10 came out in 2015. What I'm saying is all of those Windows versions have been defective, and you are not allowed to own any of them. The only thing you could do is license them. So Bill Gates set the standard for selling you something that you thought you owned, but you did not own. How about that? What a great concept. So here's a guy that sold for $89.95, something that was broken to begin with, and he would fix it by selling you something else that would repair some of the broken damage but cause new damage, new failures, and $89.95 each time. And then what would happen is as you bought a newer version of Windows, it would have more requirements on the processor and the memory, so then you'd have to upgrade your hardware. Now,
well, that's what's happened with me. I refuse to go Windows 10. I have an 8.1 as my highest one in 7. And now they're saying they're no longer going to offer support of 7. How dare them?
Yeah.
Like,
so here's what you do.
They're going to ruin it.
Well, that's right. So I've got browsers that YouTube says we will not please upgrade for better performance or better experience. We will no longer support your browser. Now, YouTube doesn't work on one of my computer browsers. Can you imagine that? Used to work fine 2 weeks ago, and then you've got Netflix and you've got Prime Video, Jeff Bezos, and his system and the Netflix system is saying, oh, no, it won't work on this Blu-ray player anymore. So you have to upgrade because they changed the rules. They changed the rules, and it's an outrage. Don't support these bozos. Dr. Richard Allen Miller's with us, richardallenmiller.com, Richard A-L-A-N Miller, M-I-L-L-E-R.com. You mentioned Apple. Here's what Apple did. They intentionally released an operating system update that when people installed it on their phones slowed down. So what they did was they said, well, this is an older phone, and the battery pack is starting to have less ability to hold a charge. So what Apple did was they created an operating system update that would slow down the phone. So people would say, geez, how much does it cost to have a battery installed? And it's very difficult to install your own battery replacement in an Apple phone, actually any phone. They're designed so you can't. And so Apple in order to sell more phones, came up with an update, an operating system update, that when you installed it, it would say you need this, and you just say, okay. Yep. If you say I need it, yep, I guess I do. And then it slowed down the phone, and you go, oh, man, this is terrible. How much is that? $79 for a battery. All right. Well, I guess this thing is so slow, I guess I'll get a new phone. That's what they did. How much were they fined? About 25 million euros. 25 million euros. About $27 million or 25 million euros for slowing down. Fraud, consumer fraud. That's what this is. Let me say it a different way. Consumer fraud. So when you think Apple is this nice company, it's run, the CEO is a homo. Me first, homo. Do you need any more proof that when people do immoral things, they do immoral things? So in the bedroom, oh, it's okay what he does. He's just a homo. Well, here's what he's done to you. He has slowed down your phone to force you into thinking that you need a new phone. Before the upgrade, before that new upgrade or update in the operating system, your phone was fine. That's fraud.
In fact, fined Apple for doing that. And we're talking like I think it's $200 million. I don't know what the actual fine was, but it's in the millions, $100 million, something like that, for doing that. And this is just the tip of our icebergs.
By the way, that fine.
Go into what they're doing with the food next, because if you think they're doing it just in electronics and automobiles,
so that fine
that has been turned into a weapon, just like the virus. And I am here to call, as a physicist, I'm saying this is wrong.
You know what, Rick?
The whole mythology of it, it's wrong. And it's going to go down in history as such. And I want everybody to understand, 200 years from now, they're going to be seen for what they really were. They're non-human. That's it.
Rick, I've got a landline here at the farmhouse, and I call people on the landline. I use the landline, all the time. And do you know the phone system that I have for this landline, I bought in the 90s. So it's, let's say 35 years old. Do you know
it's actually less than 1G technology.
Yeah,
and right now we're up to 4G technology.
Here's the point. I have never downloaded an upgrade for the software for my landline. Do you know that? In 35 years, I've never had to upgrade the software because it just works and works and works and works. It does everything today that it used to. It's a 4-line system, and it works beautifully. And it continues to work every day.
My
without
systems
fail.
are similar, except I am noticing the quality of sound is lousier. And it's not that it's wearing out and my audio is going sour. It's that the 4G technology is actually what it does is it clips certain bandwidths that were not clipped with 1G or 2G technology. And now they want to upgrade to 5G, which will make my landline inoperable. I, constantly am saying, what did you say? Could you repeat that? Your voice is muffled. You've heard me say that.
Hold that thought. We'll be right back. Rick, I don't know if you just heard that Smokey Bear commercial. They changed it. Maybe they realized that we were right when we challenged them and said...
Yeah, well, it isn't you that's going to prevent the forest fires anymore, cowboy. I'll tell you. They're all, listen, I remember when loggers were unemployed and would set forest fires so that they could harvest morels.
Yeah.
That's
Rick,
how they do it out west. How does that work for you? And Australia, I'm not even going to go there on why they did those fires. That's crazy.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's really it's a devious plan to set fires to make land worth less, and then say, you know what, this was worth more, but since it's all burned up now, it's not worth so much, so we'll buy it at pennies on the dollar. That's a plan of, if you look at big business, these wealthy people, they make it through concessions from favors from government. For example, President Donald Trump has been known to get tax advantages for his apartment buildings in New York City. He'd work with the mayor and kind of bludgeon the mayor into giving tax incentives, tax relief that the little guys who are apartment landlords did not get. And then you look at Bezos, and he bludgeons the Postal Service and the other mail delivery or package delivery companies by promising them a large volume in exchange for lower rates. And the little companies can't do that, so nobody can compete on shipping with Amazon. Nobody. And so once they beat everybody out of the competitive arena, and only Amazon is left, then prices will come up. And if you want proof of that, the Chinese factory outlet.
Let me tell you the latest on Amazon. I just reinstated, because I can't beat them, so I have to join them type of thing, in selling books with my seller's account on Amazon, and they've got a brand new policy. I called yesterday. I'm forming a ticket on a complaint, and I got a really nice individual from India, and he understood my problem and could not help me. What are they doing? They don't pay you until the package has been received. Like if I'm sending it bulk mail, it takes 1 week, so at 6 days, then they add another 7 days to make sure that that person doesn't complain before they release their money. Now that means they're holding my money for a minimum of 2 weeks, and they're holding it when they've taken out their $56, their $37. That came out immediately, and I can't get my money for 14 days. Now, I have to pay postage. I have to pay for my inventory, my labor, and all the rest of it, and I have to wait 2 weeks, and that's Amazon's newest policy. There's nothing. So how much am I going to get? I don't know. Why? Because in a 2-week period, it's hard to keep track of what's going on. With PayPal, the moment PayPal gets that money, I can go in there and get my money. And Amazon is 2 weeks, and I want to what I would love to do is start a movement where everybody boycotted Amazon for everything. See how that one plays, Seattle?
Well, that's a great lofty plan. Except
it won't work. We can't. Even with God's help, and let me tell you, I'm a David that couldn't pick up a big enough rock. Mm-hmm. And it's because of Amazon, and there is within Amazon, I'm going to call the legal department today, there is within Amazon a for-hire nefarious that will cause problems for a fee. I've got it. I've identified it. Now, let's say when I call their legal, what they do about it or how much news.
Rick, you mentioned Linux. Let me share with the class Linux. I use Linux here. Linux is a viable alternative to Microsoft Windows, and you can use it and you can download it for free, and then you'll create a CD or a DVD, and you will then install it on your PC. It's absolutely free. And the one that I have is Linux Mint, M-I-N-T. So you can go to your favorite search engine, which should be DuckDuckGo, and look up Linux download, and you'll find the one for Mint. And you can download it. It'll take maybe an hour. If you have a slow internet like we do. and you can then install it on a PC. And it's unbelievable. It comes with Office. That would be, the writer. It comes with the spreadsheet. It comes with the database. It comes with the drawing program. It comes with the audio program, so you can listen to audio. You can pop a DVD in your PC and listen to the audio from it. It has it all. And almost every single application, almost every one, is free. It will do almost everything that Microsoft Office will do, except you'll need some applications to convert. Like, let's say you have a payroll program, and you want that to run under Linux. You'll have to have something called Wine, which stands for Wine is not an emulator. That's what it stands for, and it will emulate Windows. So but not everything works under Wine either. But you'll find a slight learning curve, but if it's on your screen, you will swear it's Windows. It looks like it, it feels like it, and it works, and there's no blue screens, meaning the screen, it doesn't lock up the same way that Windows locks up, and there's no charge, and you don't have to keep paying for upgrade after upgrade after upgrade, and it works. So I've been using Linux since the 90s, and it's great. So you might want to consider that. I'm not a Linux guru. I mean, it's a craft unto itself, but I think you'll be able to install it, and I think you'll be able to live with it, and I think you'll really like it, and it's free, and it pulls that $89 plus from Microsoft. So that's the update on Linux. Rick, I'd like to read a letter I received, and I do not want to identify the person who wrote this. I was hoping to get permission a couple days ago to put the person's name on it, but I don't have that. So let's just assume that this is from a teacher, and I have to change a few words so that the identifiers are not in this letter. And this addresses something that you were talking about earlier, Rick. And here it is. Dear Vincent, I just received this recently. Dear Vincent, since you've expressed concern before about this issue, I decided to do a little experiment to see how accurate your concerns were. You, unfortunately, were right. I'm sending you an example of an 8th grade class writing their name in cursive. I've been substituting in a school miles from my other school since October. This town is in the county seat of the county. Now, I have to change a few words, so it may not seem as eloquent as she wrote it, or he wrote it. Since this school is about twice the size of the high school I used to teach in, I was hopeful that they had a somewhat higher standard. Not true. A friend who is a teacher in Texas has told me that Texas schools will begin teaching cursive again next year. That is encouraging. Another problem I've seen is that students cannot tell time on a regular wall clock. They must look at their phone, which everyone has, to see the time in digital form. I had hoped that the other teachers would support me in teaching students to at least sign their name in cursive. When I asked one of the teachers if it bothered her that most students could not write cursive, her response was, no, not really. I'll be gone in a couple of years. I really don't care. What do you say to that? If teachers don't care, that's a horrible problem. Their comments and attitudes hurt as much as the original problem. 15 minutes a day would be all it takes to teach these children what they need. It seems like such a simple fix. I feel guilty and embarrassed to be part of a profession that has failed. And it's not the students' fault. It's the fault of the adults. Thank you for letting me vent. Now tell me what to do. I'm sure that Robert from Kansas would have something to say to me. Tell your wife I said hi, and it was signed. I'm looking at the examples, the photocopy of the signatures of these students, 8th grade students' names in what they think is cursive. One of them is like a shaky hand of a 90-year-old. And this is an 8th grader. One of them has a lowercase first letter of the first name and an uppercase first letter of the last name. Some of them I can't even figure out what the letters are. Like if you said to me, what is this person's name? I can't read it. I can't read it because they can't write in cursive. They don't know how to form the letters. I'm looking at an example of a first and last name. Both start with lowercase letters. When were we ever taught to sign our name with lowercase first letters of our first name and last name? When? It's embarrassing. It's a descriptive failure of the educational system. Now, these aren't 3rd graders.
Family that values the child as the single most expensive item in their household. Not their car, not their home, the child. And yet, they would send it off like to a mechanic to fix it. And look how it's being fixed.
Well, it's broken. It is absolutely broken. Young people today do not know how to use a checkbook, meaning write a check. They don't know how to do that.
Or double entry, pegboard. You know, where you write down in a column what the expense was for.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. They don't understand interest, simple interest, meaning they don't understand that how much they will repay if they buy on time, meaning they get it now and they pay for it over time. They don't understand that. They don't understand that
I don't understand that one. Interest rates and 10% as opposed to 29%. And credit cards, that part is so convoluted as to be criminal.
I did an experiment at Tractor Supply Company. They had a discount if you applied for the credit card, so I did. And I was turned down. They said that what I said would not justify them giving me a credit card with a very low limit. I'll tell you a little bit more about that when we come back. So I was at this Tractor Supply Company, and they said, hey, you can have a discount if you, discount card. And you get discounts off your purchases if you apply for this credit card. So I did, right there at the cash register, right then and there. And the gal said, "Oh, you're declined." It was nice. Everybody got a chance to know that. And so here's the reason why I'm telling you this. Our family credit score is about 838, and it bumps up and down a couple points. That's in the top 1.5% of all credit scores in the country. I have not had a job in 31 years. Mrs. Finelli has not had a job way longer than that. Okay? So we just do our own thing. We're just a bunch of farmers. And yet our credit score is high, but yet we can't get a credit card from this lousy Tractor Supply Company. And I'm talking about a little tiny limit, like $500. Now, the other credit cards we have credit card limits like $24,000. And we pay them off every month. We do not pay interest. We're allergic to paying interest. Here's the point I'm trying to make. These lousy, disgusting, filthy, usurious credit card companies are in control. The credit scores determine what you're going to pay for insurance. So if you have a less than stellar FICO score on your credit worthiness, you will pay higher insurance, higher homeowners insurance, higher automobile insurance. You will, because it's all tied together. These guys are thicker than thieves, the insurance companies, the banks. So I just wanted to let you know that these guys, these international and United States bankers have got us by the throat. Now, I really don't care about this particular Tractor Supply credit card. I'll shop wherever I get the best deal, and I refuse to turn over one more cent than I have to anybody. So, class, start your own company. Start your own company.
Yeah, I'd like to change a direction here real quickly. Everybody wants to know what Russia, for example, is doing with the coronavirus. They are using chaga mushroom that grows on birch and birch trees, and the birch bark, they make a tea out of it, which is also wintergreen. That is where most of your wintergreen oil comes from, is birch bark. And chaga mushroom is a polysaccharide, and those things are putting oxygen into your body on a cellular level. Now, I've been told to walk on rice paper when giving you remedies. And I'm going to say this, that you should not worry about the coronavirus at this time, even in its weaponized form, because basically there's nothing that is known that will cure it. If they're going to come out with inoculations next, that's what Bill Gates and all of those people are about. Immunization expenses. And that won't work either. The best and only way I know to combat these viruses is good health and healthy eating habits. And that's that. It is your body that overcomes the cold. It is your body that will overcome most all of these different viruses that they're now weaponizing. And as long as you realize that, there will be people that die. That's because they're not healthy. It is your body that will save your life. And that's why you treat it right.
So, Rick, you're really not saying don't worry about the coronavirus. You're not saying don't stay at it.
As long as you're in good health, healthy-wise, keeping your body healthy, there's nothing that it can't overcome, including malaria.
Rick,
now,
are you saying that we don't have to worry about hopping on an airplane or hopping on a cruise ship or going to...
Well, yeah, because not so much the virus, but because they're going to put you in quarantine to make sure you're going to get sick.
Okay, so...
I mean, how would you
what
like
is your...
to be on that ship that went to 7 different countries before it could find sanctuary? You know, where it could... I mean, they wouldn't take it in the Philippines. They wouldn't take it in Taiwan. They wouldn't take... The ship was not allowed in. There was nobody sick on the ship. They were just on board that ship. This is a good time not to travel except in the United States and enjoy other parts of our country. And further, who wants to visit where there are large volumes of people? Children, that's one of the things about public school that's good, is that's where you're exposed. At a young enough age, you build up antibodies. And why teachers are sick all the time, because they're being exposed to the diversity of children's illnesses. Not much you can add to that one.
Well, no, I totally agree with that. However, you wouldn't catch me on a cruise. You wouldn't catch me on a cruise ship, nor would you catch me on a subway, nor would you catch me on a train, a bus,
well, Murder on the Orient Express, I always thought that was a cool ride. Just kidding.
Yeah. Well, I think you got to be stupid to get on a cruise ship. Why would anybody get on a cruise ship? We'll be right back. Dr. Richard Allen Miller's with us. You just heard at the top of the hour news that said that Ford has a recall of 240,000 vehicles because of a suspension failure. Well, I looked it up. It's not 240,000. It's 1.3 million. Actually, it's over 1.3 million vehicles, mainly in North America, to fix a rear suspension and transmission control software problem, or problems. The long list of vehicles includes Ford SUVs, F-150 Econoline trucks, Taurus, Flex crossover. It includes the Lincoln MKS and the MKT crossover. And this is because of manufacturing and design problems. But it's not just Ford. I have a 2004 Chevy pickup truck. It's a work truck, nothing special. Crank up windows, and the front sway bar fractured, both sides. So it's poor manufacturing techniques poor quality control, poor design, poor implementation. So I replaced mine before it had a total failure. Why? Because I get under it and I look at it thoroughly when I change the oil. But here's what happens. Does your vehicle get looked at thoroughly when you get the oil changed? I suggest it does not. So you need to find a mechanic who actually is going to take care of you. That's just a quick comment about what I just heard on the top of the hour news. And, Rick, coronavirus, some people are thinking that this is no big deal. Well, headline news, Daily Mail. Coronavirus is causing the first global drop in oil use in a decade amid the widespread shutdown of China's economy. Okay, so demand is down. And I reported this over a week ago that this was happening because I pay attention to home heating oil prices, which is the same as diesel fuel. Okay, at the time that I reported last week, or 2 weeks ago, or no, maybe a month ago, fuel oil was about $1.97 at that wholesale price, $1.97 a gallon. It dropped to about $1.40 a gallon as a result of this Chinese lack of use of diesel fuel. Today, it's about $1 at the Gulf Coast harbor. It's about $1.50 a gallon. So yes, it has come down substantially, about 25%. It's real. So when you look at the numbers, the financial numbers, and this is just because China's factories have shut down, that the world's wholesale price, or the United States wholesale price of fuel oil number 2, diesel, home heating oil, and farm fuel, all the same thing, is $1.50, down 25% roughly. And then if you look at, there's a school system in Texas. It's actually the Johnson County, Texas school system. The school shut down its doors Tuesday for the rest of the week due to flu and other illnesses. So there are people who are paying attention, but they shut down the whole county school system. Rick, any comments?
Well, yeah, some of it's real and some of it is fear. And, you know, that's how they're ruling us all, is with fear and fake news. You asked me about Before It's News as a thing. I have used Before It's News. I listened to it. I liked, a lot of the articles. And then when I started to dig a little deeper, I'm finding there's a lot of disinformation. I'm dispensing a lot of disinformation, unintentionally being fooled by people's fears and not digging deeper enough like some reporters do so that I have a better, more clear understanding of what really is happening. And there's no way to ever really know because I'm not in China to watch all the so-called bodies being cremated or not. And when you have a billionaire, the one you sent me, talking about how many people are being dead every day, I have to wonder, is it real or is he, hedging toward a virus immunity shot that he's going to sell? You don't know. So you work on your gut. And I have watched how pandemics like SARS and some of the other viruses last year, the year before, how they played. And the public is trying to pick this up. And the first thing that I want everybody to realize is this one was a weapon. Now, why did it get loose? What actually happened? Well, there was a Chinese nationalist that was arrested for smuggling this out of Canada to Wuhan, level 4 containment study group, because China wanted it as a weapon. And guess what? Now it's being used. I've had enough. Why would anyone, Bill Gates, want to weaponize the common cold? Well, watch how the military works on things. They want to shoot first and then not be responsible for not asking questions. They're just presuming. And I watched a sci-fi movie the other night called Epoch. And let me tell you, that was a thing that hit the earth billions of years ago and then comes up to give mankind a boon in determining whether or not Homo sapien is going to live or it's going to fade out and make room for a new life form, like each epoch does. And basically, the weapon, the first thing the military wanted to do in that movie was nuke it. And the Chinese fly over it, and they shoot missiles at it, and it actually takes the missile, the airplanes out because they're hostile. Defends itself. We presume everything is going to be bad, and really, it's all of it. It's good, it's bad, and it's ugly. Why? Because man is limited with his imagination, which is undisciplined. And man has a responsibility for the thoughts he chooses to entertain. And until you focus on that, the rest of it is, daily news. There it is. Use it and weep. Now, is the earth going downhill or uphill? Is it advancing? Is mankind getting better? Or are we losing? And the correct answer is yes. You're responsible for yourself. Once you do that, the rest of it will make sense. And it's different for each of us. That's the part that I find so interesting.
Okay. Rick, what is your reaction to this? So the Sun.co.uk story that says, shocking moment, Instagram pranksters spark panic by pretending to spill coronavirus on a New York subway train. So what these two morons did is they're dressed up in hazmat suits, white hazmat suits, covering everything but their face. They've got gloves on, and they've got these yellow gloves, like Playtex dishwashing gloves, okay? But who knows? And they've got covering all of their skin except for their face. They've got this hazmat suit on, white hazmat suits. And they've got the face masks on. And they've got this bucket, and it's labeled hazardous material, like you'd see in a hospital.
Yeah, they should have been arrested for trying to cause a riot. And I watched how Iran, how did W.C. Fields put it? There's a sucker born every minute. And,
well, what happened?
Here's Iran advertising spacesuits, which has got a children's costume for $20. Get a grip! That's what's wrong with our educational system. When I was in school as a young kid, the United States was number 6 in the world for education of small children. It wasn't until graduate school that the United States excelled because of toys. Nuclear reactors, linear accelerators, and the usual, Van Allen belt. There it is. And today, the United States is what? 15th, 17th, something 32nd in the world for education of our children. What has happened to the greatness of America? Well, we could start with agriculture, because it was agriculture, not Bibles or pistols, that made our country great. And right now, less than 3% of the food we consume was grown in America. What's wrong with that picture? I would, for example, you want to make a change, start growing your own food and going to the farmers markets, the local ones. Support your neighborhood. But people don't get that because Walmart. I go to Harbor Freight to get my tools now because I can't afford to go to a hardware store. But the screw that I buy, I can bend a screw with a screwdriver now. It's a cheap knockoff of what a screw used to be made from. where you were going into wood and you wanted it to hold. Today, I have to drill a hole because that screw, I can't just screw it into the wood. The wood's too hard and the screw is too weak. Harbor Freight. And so you get what you pay for. And there are deals, and there are bargains, and there are Best Buys. And Best Buy is not cheapest. Cheapest and Best Buy are two different ways marketing is done. And Snap-on and Craftsman used to be the bottom line. And the problem is Sears and Roebuck is closing down as a metaphor because it can't compete with China. It used to be that whatever our gross national product was 10 times off what we exported to what we imported. We don't even export anymore. Wheat, and soybean and corn. Good luck. It's all hooey.
So if you wanted to buy Craftsman tools when they were made in the United States, you could get a good deal on a set of wrenches, and it would be about $100.
Snap-on back then.
Hang on, it'd be better. It'd be about $100. You could get the almost equivalent Chinese Chi-Com Harbor Freight wrench set for about $15 or $20.
Right, $7. I can't believe it. The shipping, the how can they tell a whole set of screwdrivers for $7? And we're talking about 30 of them for $7.
Yeah, and they've destroyed the American tool manufacturing. But if you look at the tolerances of the wrenches, they are off. They are no good, and they'll slip, whereas the Craftsman won't. So imagine being on this subway in New York City, and these two jerks have these hazmat suits on with masks, and they've got this bucket, and it's got hazmat biological warning on it, and they spill it on the subway, and they think this is funny, and people are screaming. My question is that, what would happen if someone called in a fake act of terrorism to the police, or acted like a terrorist on a subway? Would they be killed? Would they be shot? Would they be arrested? What would happen? Here, it's just a joke.
They called that the day the earth stood still. And when they got on that radio program and talked about aliens blowing up L.A. Welcome to Hysteria 101.
Well, I think there should... Rick, I think...
Okay, it's a neurolinguistics in how the brain chooses to filter what it hears. And watch how you take a statement and 6 individuals later, how the statement has morphed.
Rick, are you saying...
That's a good way to report the news.
Rick, are you saying that these guys are right or wrong in their practical joke on a subway with strangers?
Yes.
There's no question in my mind.
Yes, man.
There's no question in my mind.
It's a valid question, and that is a valid answer. And yes, they are inciting a riot and are scaring kids. Now, imagine them doing that at a grade school. Oh, and we'll add a weapon while he's at it.
And what about that little old lady who has a heart attack and dies? Now, I don't think that happened, but what if she did? What if there was
because she could. And that's why they say Hollywood, if she could. Once you see it in your mind's eye as possible, it's not only true, it's even way more than that. And that's when Merlin said to Arthur, anything not specifically forbidden is mandatory. If it's possible, you can count on it. That's what imagination is. And the bottom line is altered states of consciousness. And everybody listening to this show has gone through, maybe 12 different altered states during the show. Coffee, distraction, whatever. The thing is, the laws of physics change with these altered states. And so when you're in this state and you have a belief system on something, of course it's going to happen. How could it not? It isn't karmically kumbaya and I'm going to attract the love of the universe to me. What do you think demons are? Demons are individual parts of yourself that you deem unworthy. But the fact that you can even see them, like a Christian, could it be that? That place is, of course, they've just made that real. God, as I have studied him in my forms of Bibles, does not have competition per se. He has bosses like Yahweh to Yahweh, but what is that? Listen, it's man's limitation that has polarized everything. And the typical, you think science has got the answer. It doesn't have the answers. It starts with assumed truths. And really, like when I said earlier about the dolphin and their language being way, way more sophisticated than Hebrew, Old Hebrew, and now they're proving that dolphin art, the language, are sending images, holographic images in sound waves that now can be seen. Now you tell me how man can do that for himself in language. And so man, in my humble opinion, is not only not the center of the universe, and the earth is flat and the sun runs around me. It's we're a food chain. Yesterday I posted this thing showing an orca coming up out of the waves with a seal in its mouth, and right behind it was a large whale eating orca and the seal. And that is Bob Dylan.
We'll be right back.
Everybody has got to serve somebody.
Theater, because the stampede that follows can trample and kill people. You can't travel in a hazmat suit with a face mask on and a bucket that says hazardous material, biological hazard, and spill it without repercussions.
Hello?
Yeah, we're here. We're here, Rick. What I'm saying is that it's immoral. We have lost our way. Robert in Kansas, welcome.
Somebody didn't like what we were saying.
No,
messed with our transmission. What should I do?
No, I think
keep
our
talking what?
Yeah, no, we're good. Robert in Kansas, welcome. Robert?
Hey, Dr. Miller, you hear me?
Yes, I do.
Hey, are we on the radio?
Yeah,
I have
we're good.
idea. Nothing's happening. Vincent's gone. I don't know.
We're good. We're good.
I'm not working the board. Who's this?
This is Robert in Kansas. You said something about the Bible and guns earlier, and I think that you're right.
Pistols. That's the big picture. Used to be the Bible and a pistol that gave you your civil rights.
Well,
that's what I meant. That's as a humorous thing. Yes. Did you have?
I would say it's. You could say it as a moral people combined with freedom. I think maybe that really is what made us so great. Is we did have some freedom.
Okay, Ducky Mallard is the one that said, "An ethical man knows not to cheat on his wife. A moral man won't." And the Bible is only one set of morals. And really, the people using that Bible do not practice those morals, because the primary teaching of Christ was not to make judgment on another person. That was his primary teaching. And guess what Christians do? Hypocritical. And that's one of the reasons I'm not practicing Christianity, even though the Quakers see me as being a Quaker. I try to walk my talk, and I try not to make judgment on another. Hello?
Well,
did I lose you right there or what? I'm talking to the blankness. I don't know if we're on the air or not either.
Well, I have I mean, there's
Yes.
certain things about, not even just the Bible, but I think just within people, like, just in your own.
Well, a lot of that came from your parents. For example, if you had been born in Iraq, you would not be a Christian. And truthfully, Muslims in many forms are way more religious in terms of walking their talk than Americans are.
Yeah, they don't kill their babies over there. That's one thing about it.
It's extremism and fundamentalism has got a problem with patriarchal and matriarchal things in the way they treat women and children. Yes, I concur, and that's one of the reasons why I wouldn't live there if I had a choice. But some people don't have that choice. And what they are raised as, what I'm trying to, I guess, say is belief systems per se are actually tools in a toolbox. And once you understand that, like one of the things I trained in Navy SEALs, we didn't go to Iraq, but when we go into Cambodia or places like that, what I would train them is, you go over there as a Christian, you're going to get your unit killed. And what you do is you don't wear, as a metaphor, you don't wear a sweater in the heat of summer. Does not mean you throw that sweater away. Belief system. You fold it and put it neatly away for use when it's appropriate. And that's basically how a belief system can be a tool, and you use it as a tool, not an absolute. And there's a whole difference in the way you do that. My daughter used to work in absolutes. Daddy, I love this, and Daddy, I hate that. And then I would say to her, I'll bet I could find something you hate even more. And so it was always a more Eastern form of relationship of one thing to another. The yin within the yang, rather than absolutes, which is more of a Christian, and actually not the teachings of Christ, because that all started in the year 1000 when Pope Innocent I declared war on the Catholics. And the Catholic Church and the teachings of Christ went in opposite directions, in my humble opinion. Now, I know I don't know, and what I try to do is take my personal beliefs and walk my talk and not make a judgment on what you think is right or wrong. However, when you start to make judgment on me, I have a problem.
But right and wrong does exist, correct? I mean, it is a thing that actually does exist, right? There's things that are right and
what
wrong.
exists? I'm not hearing
right
the
and
word.
wrong.
What are you saying exists? What?
I'm saying that right and wrong exist.
No, they don't. That's, again, man's limitation of what's right and wrong. The color of that fence over there, what color is it? You say it's brown, and you've made an assumption of seeing that the other side of that fence you can't see is also brown, and it may not be. And that's why they justify, killing your brother, and why some religions were, exempt, like Quaker, because I will not shoot anybody, period, end of story. But a Quaker will defend his family, so where do you extend that limit of defending your family? Your property line? Your state line? Your country line? It's that part is different for each of us.
Okay, Dr. Miller, but what about killing a little baby? Is that right or wrong?
Which is a little baby? Is it a fetus inside a woman?
Just a little developing baby, yeah. Whether it's or not.
I believe that an individual woman has a right to her body, and that the state, you, and God have no right in telling her what she wants to do with her own body. If she chooses to have an abortion, that's her right to have it. However, I don't have a right to say, no, you can't do that. Now, what's the right to life? Right to death? My father was part of the Neptune Club because he was in such pain. He wanted to die. It was not worth it. He was in so pain, he wanted to die. And they weren't moving fast enough for him. He shot himself. Was my father right or wrong? That's called committing suicide. Is he right or wrong? I chose not to make judgment on my father, I couldn't do that. My dad had a lot of balls and is different than me. But that doesn't mean my father was wrong. And so what I'm trying to do is say to you, well, how did Crocodile Dundee put it? Oh, yes. Well, yeah, I kind of live on it, but I wouldn't eat it. Each of us has the right to make our own decision. And the difference between civil and natural law, Hobbes and Kant, is where you give up your natural rights for order in a society. And there are many different kinds of societies out there, including capitalism, communism, and, Costa Rica. I don't know. What I do know is what I will do and what I will not do. And that's knowing yourself, or what they call self-realization. But that is only halfway to God. And God is not knowable. I don't give a damn what anybody thinks. You can experience him, absolutely. But how can you know something that is beyond you? For example, like orca has a cerebral cortex that's literally physically twice the size of man's cerebral cortex, and that mammal is firing 60% of it. Basically, that mammal is able to go places man will never know. Does that make that mammal more superior than man? In some ways, I would say, yeah, it's higher on the food chain. And yet, I've watched orca chase dolphin. And so, I don't know. I don't have the answers. And at any given moment, I can change my opinion. Because I do change, and there is personal growth. And why I don't date the same kind of woman 2 times in a row.
That's what I'm trying to do, Dr. Mill. I'm trying to change your mind and get you to see that the little baby isn't the woman's body, and she's not committing suicide. She's ending the life.
Okay, she was raped and did not want to have that child, and in fact, it may kill her because her body is damaged in such a way she's inequipped to have that child. What's the right thing to do? I don't know. What I do know is I don't have the right to tell her what to do. She has to do that herself and live with those consequences. And that is the way I live. And it isn't trying to change minds. When you try to change someone's mind, what you're doing is trying to make them agree with you so that you feel secure that your values are correct. I have no idea if I'm right. I don't. What I try to do is do what I sense is the right thing, and if you don't have to agree to me to disagree. I mean, that's what made me different than you.
I'm just trying to define morality, Doctor. I'm trying to get to where we were as America when we knew that killing babies was wrong, and we didn't do that.
One guy that they just had in the news this morning that had 2,100 fetuses buried in his yard or some weird thing. That is kind of weird. But to bomb an abortion center, that's wrong too.
Well, yeah, it's wrong. It's just that it's not about really something that we're going to tell
somebody. That abortion center has a right to be there. There are rules of engagement. That's why we have international law and the Hague and accountability at the end of the day. And basically, it doesn't work perfectly. Nothing does. But what I try to do for myself is not make the same mistake twice. And I make a lot of mistakes, trust me, man. I mean, I do. I don't know. I'm really educated, and I'm really intuitively smart, but I don't have the answers. I don't. I have them for myself. Absolutely. And, guess what? They change also every day at any given moment. Like Two-Face, I'm two minds and then flip a coin. I'm not that bad. I have a pretty good sense of what I want to be and how I want to behave. Beyond that, brand new virgin territory for me too. and I am trying to become something more than I am. And I use religion, like science, for fellowship. I do not use it as the gospel. The gospel
Robert,
is inside me. It's not out there. And
Robert, we've got Rick's got some things that I wanted him to talk about, prevention and so forth of the coronavirus. Thank you so much for being with us, Robert. Rick, when we come back, prevention, let's talk about that. How is it treated, and the experimentation that's going on right now. It's been reported that an executive order has been issued which initiated the implementation of the Department of Defense Global Campaign Plan for Pandemic, Influenza, and Infectious Diseases. And this article on Zero Hedge says that we don't know all the details of the plan, but what we do know is that it instructs the U.S. military officials to prepare for widespread outbreaks. Many in the mainstream continue to try to convince us that the virus is not much more than more dangerous than the common cold. But if that's true, why is our military taking such a dramatic step? Zero Hedge.
Well, by the way, was I on radio? Were we on open when I was talking to that individual?
Yes. Yes.
No.
Yes.
Oh, I didn't mean to have that be public, but okay. I just had no idea what was going on.
Yeah, Rick, here's what you should assume, and everyone who comes on the air with me, assume from the moment you make that connection that you can be on the air for the entire duration of the 2 hours. And
okay,
that should be.
Thank you. Thank you for
any broadcast. Okay, so Rick, you sent me a document, Prevention for the 2019 novel coronavirus.
That's what CDC is saying, which is not most credible, but before it's news, and all these others are fear-mongering. And while the deployment of troops, I mean, they were going to do that in South Carolina or Virginia, wasn't it, on that gun control thing. There are all kinds of reasons why people are doing things, and they were never being told the real truth.
Okay, Rick, let me just ask you a few very simple questions. Rick, would you, if it was not mandatory, whatever mandatory means, if you had the opportunity to get on an airplane to go and do something for fun, would you do it right now?
Yeah, I don't have a fear going down to L.A. I would have a fear going over to Southeast Asia right now, yes.
Okay,
I wouldn't do that right now until I got a better read on what really is going on. And right now, I don't know.
Even though a passenger from Southeast Asia could have flown over and then gotten...
My girlfriend was ill like this flu virus 3 weeks ago, and at one point I was really concerned taking her into emergency.
Right, that's another thing.
What was that?
Okay, would you be interested in going for a typical annual doctor's visit where the doctor's office is in a hospital? Would you be, or would you prefer that?
Hospitals are breeding grounds like small grade schools are. And especially one of the reasons a lot of the hospitals now are eliminating carpet, even though it's, visitor friendly, is because that's where the viruses will hang out. And sterilization of the floor using bleach is your friend. And when you can't bleach a carpet, what do you think's happening now with the seat you're sitting in? Because it's not leather, it's leather, and it's a nice, comfortable one, rather than something that is hard and sterile that you can hit with bleach. That's what the problem with hospitals are. And when I worked in a hospital, and I did for 6 years in anesthesiology, you presumed that everything you touched was going to possibly have creep on it. And now you ought to go into Walmart with blacklight. That's a good way to see the viruses. Just use a blacklight on things and look at what you see.
We do that. We do that now.
I know, but guess what? It's creepy, isn't it?
Absolutely, it's creepy. And if you take a black light and you look at any carpet, you'll say, whoa, That looks like that carpet.
Your finger in your mouth to take out food or whatever, like brushing your teeth or cleaning with floss. What do you think is happening there?
You want to try something fun?
Wuhan is creepy with virus. Take a look at your mouth and what's on your finger, and your body just presumes it's going to have toxicity and takes care of it.
How about this?
That wasn't there before. It's always been there. The common cold has always been around. And yes, look at how many people die from the common cold every year and compare that to Wuhan virus.
Well,
and now
okay.
you have a better perspective of how they're playing fear on us.
All right, well, Rick, I'm not looking at it that way. I'm looking at...
I know, and I am. It's all, and we're...
No, Rick, I think we're somewhat on the same page. I look at the coronavirus as a great way of telling us we ought to pay attention, okay, to other viruses.
We presume a lot of things. Like when you rent an automobile and you get behind the wheel and you just put your hand on the steering wheel, presuming it didn't have, Godzilla driving it earlier.
All right, so here's what you can do. You can get a pen light that is an ultraviolet light. Now, don't look at it because you can damage your eyes. But if you get one, you can get one for less than $5 on the internet shipped. Take that with you into a public bathroom. Oh, I don't know, any urinal, okay? And just aim it around the urinal. You won't get within...
Flush the toilet, man.
Flush the toilet. You won't get within 20 feet of the toilet.
Oh, they'll leap out at you. That's what fleas do.
Rick, thanks so much. See you next week.
They have a leaping distance of 7 feet. That means you can't even unzip your pants.